One of the things that bothered me after watching Stanley Kubrick's The Shining the first time, 40 years ago, was how casual Jack acted, returning from room 237. Why didn't he say anything about the naked old crone waddling after him? This isn't something one just forgets. I know some will feel sorry for me and say I just don't understand Kubrick. That's the thing, not many people did. That's why the film wasn't a big box office hit, putting it between Urban Cowboy and Cheech and Chong's next movie. As the years went by with its countless viewings, I've become desensitized, almost numb, practically describing Jack's omission as heavily nuanced, if not brilliant. That raises questions, many theories, alternative theories, why Jack doesn't share his wild, crazy experiences with his family. This is where I say the alternative theories mentioned within may cause anxiety, rage, and disbelief. But that's why you're here, I hope. Kindly consider leaving a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now we're off with Jack and his excuses. Before we address why Jack didn't share his experiences with Wendy, we have to look at how many other times he could have said something after seeing something quite unnatural. In some, but not all, stories dealing with a witness of the unearthly or just plain weird is the tension or the anticipation waiting for others to see it for themselves. More than a form of empathy, being the eyes of the audience, it's a method to validate the characters and their experiences. It's a form of relief and often a way to move the story to the next act. One of my favorite theatrical examples of this is Die Hard. We're following along with John McClane, barefoot in the middle of a Christmas party, when Hans Gruber and his goons take over Nakatomi Plaza. As McClane tries to get help from the outside, he's ridiculed, impeded, and literally shot at. There's not just anxiety felt for him eluding the terrorists, but we're waiting for the rest of the in-film universe to believe and try to come rescue. Once he finally convinces LAPD's finest, the ordeal is real, the stakes are raised, as now a simple heist has turned into a siege. The film cleverly mocks subverting expectations once the federal agents arrive.
You ask for miracles, dear. I give you the FBI.
As for an example on television, let's look at the classic episode from The Twilight Zone, Terror at 20,000 Feet. There, Robert Wilson, played by William Shatner, is the lone witness of a gremlin outside on the wing of the plane. The whole episode revolves around tension waiting for someone to believe him. This anticipation is strung tight, to the end, where even Wilson confesses.
But I'm the only one who does know. Right now.
It's only in the episode's short epilogue do we see there may be redemption. After several, many, countless viewings of The Shining, I've come to accept that the story is a psychological one about isolation. So it works best when each of the family members have their own unique experiences and never mentioned to another. Jack is the only one to talk with the bartender. Danny is the only one to see the twins. And Wendy is the lone witness to the life-sized Pirates of the Caribbean themed diorama. Still, the crazy old lady from room 237 is the only spiritual character seen by more than one family member, although Danny's encounter is told to us and never visibly witnessed by the audience, effectively leaving doubt and open to conspiracies. It's not enough that Jack have the experiences to talk about, he needs to be lucid enough to have the wherewithal to say something about it. Now, many will say that Jack was crazy from the beginning. While that may be true, I'm going by what we were led to believe, as if we're first-time viewers. That would be between the start of the film to when he walked out on Wendy after investigating 237. This is really the last time Jack is seen trying to have a normal conversation. Soon after, he's hallucinating again and sabotaging the radio. In between these two markers, I've counted two things that Jack and the audience saw together that were best described as outliers. The first is his encounter with the bartender in the Gold Room. The ghost behind the bar appears out of nowhere, not fazing Jack one least bit. There is room for interpretation. Is the bartender a ghost manifested by the Overlook's shining? Or was Jack daydreaming? As it first appears, he's pretending to have a conversation with himself. A clue appears when Wendy arrives, and we see, very briefly, Jack is slumped over. This makes me believe that Jack was in a stupor. The conversation was in his head, still likely as a result of the hotel corrupting him. Because of how Jack was framed in an extra wide view and the medium close-up that followed, we don't see if his drinking glass was on the bar. I'm pretty sure this omission or obfuscation was deliberate. This does fuel a theory out there that Jack doesn't say anything about this dream because he doesn't remember. The daydream played to another personality of Jack's, a split personality between the stressed out, unemployed teacher and the psychotic, abusive husband and father. Perhaps that split was always there, between a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, encouraged, evoked by his drinking. If we apply these alternative theories to Jack's exploration of room 237, we have some excuses. One reason takes us back to Jack having split personalities. This would explain how Jack was so comfortable telling Wendy he saw nothing, because this Jack personality didn't see the old crazy woman, or the other one as well. Fair notice, I'm going with the story straight up, meaning I'm taking it as told. Both Danny and Jack saw the same old hag in the bathtub, and not any other theories out there that may have been discussed in another video. If the split personality theory doesn't pan out, then we're down to Jack just plain lying. This is exactly how I took it the first time watching. This is where it bothered me. The reason, the excuse he would hold out wasn't all that obvious. I will argue it wasn't obvious. The importance of room 237 as set up early was quickly forgotten, literally and metaphorically. This is where we can go to the source material for context, often ill-advised with Kubrick though, who went on his own path. In Stephen King's novel, Jack doesn't see the woman of room 237, but he thinks he's imagining things, including hearing footsteps and the doorknob turning on him. When he reunites with Wendy, King writes the following. He stepped into the kitchen and looked at them, bouncing the passkey a few inches off his left hand, making the chain on the white metal tongue jingle, then catching it again. Danny was pallid and worn out. Wendy had been crying, he saw. Her eyes were red and darkly circled. He felt a sudden burst of gladness at this. He wasn't suffering alone, that was sure. They looked at him without speaking. Nothing there, he said, astounded by the heartiness of his voice. Not a thing. He bounced the passkey up and down, smiling reassuringly at them, watching the relief spread over their faces, and thought he had never in his life wanted a drink so badly as he did right now. So the book highly suggests Jack lied, or at least wasn't sure himself what was real and what was imagined. Either way, he wasn't showing Wendy he was starting to crack.
But I didn't just kill you. Cut you up into little pieces.
Kubrick gave two hints behind Jack's denial to himself and his family. It comes from two different scenes of dialogue, and they are similar, in spirit at least, to the miniseries. Jack's struggle to provide for his family was never explained in explicit detail as the miniseries. It casually shapes Jack's decision to become the Overlook's caretaker as a good opportunity to write his book. Pushed into a financial corner was likely very presumed, considering the family took up this miserable, lonely experience. At the end of Jack's discussion with Wendy after he found nothing in room 237, Jack blamed Wendy for all his failures. He wasn't going to let her screw up his life or this opportunity again. He wanted a win. Later, when Wendy discovers Jack's so-called novel, Jack makes an overly dramatic, almost in mockery, excuse why he can't leave his contractual duties as caretaker. There is a subplot, more revealing in the miniseries, how Jack is in love with the hotel.
I fell in love with it right away.
Perhaps it is not just his loyalty to Ullman, but to the hotel, its history, and the shining that powers it, he will pledge his soul to. If we want to continue discussing a character deluding himself and others look no further than the ABC miniseries the book was faithfully adapted from. But that's another video. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Jack inside of room 237? This is Mr. G of Synergy saying, it's not a ghost story if you don't tell anyone. Check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.